स्वामिन् नमस्ते नतलोकबन्धो कारुण्यसिन्धो पतितं भवाब्धौ मामुद्धरात्मीयकटाक्षदृष्ट्या ऋज्व्यातिकारुण्य सुधाभिवृष्ट्या स्वामिन् नमस्ते स्वामिन् नमस्ते स्वामिन् नमस्ते स्वामिन् नमस्ते। ज्ञानस्वरूपं निजभावयुक्तं आनन्दमानन्दकरं प्रसन्नं योगीन्द्रमीड्यं भवरोगवैद्यं श्रीमद्गुरुं नित्यमहं नमामि श्रीमद्गुरुं नित्यमहं नमामि। नित्याय सत्याय चिदात्मकाय नव्याय भव्याय परात्पराय शुद्धाय बुद्धाय निरञ्जनाय नमोऽस्तु नित्यं गुरुशेखराय नमोऽस्तु नित्यं गुरुशेखराय नमोऽस्तु नित्यं गुरुशेखराय। जय गुरु जय गुरु जय गुरु। So, I think before starting, we should again remember what is our aim? Why are we pursuing this spiritual path? And what is this spiritual path? What do we gain by this? Also, whatever we learn or hear or we read and contemplate upon, exactly what are we going to practice? I think it is very essential that on and off we remind ourselves. Otherwise it becomes, just reading the text from Yoga Vasishta this much, from Bhagavad Gita this much, from Upanishads this much, and feeling that I have read this, I have heard this. But what is our aim? I think all of you know, still is humming. All of you know that this path that we are treading on, the spiritual path, this path, what we are treading on, is a path. If we attain the goal, it is an abode of unaffectedness, fearlessness, eternal peace, eternal joy. And by this time, we have understood what is the path. We understand that if we pursue this path, we will be attaining the goal. But we find that while pursuing the path, there is a lot of humming. While pursuing the path, we are not able to progress as we would like to. Although our interest is there, and although we are able to grasp and understand, the mind still goes out to the world and the worldly attractions. So, what we want is, and all of us want, is a one-pointedness, a wholesomeness in this path, in this pursuit. We know that all our distractions and our not being able to become wholesome is because we are identified with the body, which is perishable, which is not eternal, and we identify this body as the self, whereas the self is changeless, imperishable. We feel the body which is changeful to be the self, and we suffer in the hands of that mistaken identity. Now, in spite of knowing this, we know what is the method. It's humming a lot. In spite of knowing this, we know that we'll stop for a while, let them make the sound all right. It is humming a lot and there is some echo. Yes. So, what we find is that our wholesomeness does not progress and we are attracted towards the worldly affairs. Although we know that this is the path and we have this aim. So, all our shastras, they tell us what we should practice. And what I am discussing now, for some sessions now, I think this will be the fifth one. Before that, I have done Rishabhacharitam, where again from Bhagavatam, we have seen what are the disciplines and practices so that the mind becomes wholesome. And now we are discussing this King Nimi and Navayogi, out of which the King Nimi is discussing with the Yogi Prabuddha. He is asking him questions. One after another, the king has been asking. And this Yogi Prabuddha, he gives out that these are the practices by which you can bring your mind focused on the aim. What happens? We know that our senses are constantly outwards, and it goes to the corresponding objects of attraction and always wants to seek happiness from those objects of attraction. Whereas the soul is inside, the joy inside is ever there. It is eternal. Because we want happiness from the objects outside, the objects being perishable, our joy also is perishable joy, short-lived joy. So, here the Navayogi, the Yogi Prabuddha, he is saying that to make the mind one-pointed, practice this so that the mind comes away from the varieties of this world and gets focused into the love of God, so that the mind becomes pure. And we know that in a pure, restful mind, the self gets revealed. So, here Prabuddha has been talking about some disciplines which any seeker, any devotee should be pursuing. So we have done actually that initially he said that we should be in the association of holy people so that we can constantly hear about God and the self. They can constantly give us such advices by which the mind will automatically not find any meaning in many of the worldly affairs and will try to listen more and more about the self, about God, about the mind, about the intelligence, our mind's potentials, how the mind can be elevated, how we can leave the tamasic and rajasic tendencies and we can become sattvic. All these things our holy people, the saintly people, the gurus will be telling us constantly. That is, they inspire us towards this goal. And not only they inspire us, they also help us to remain steady on the goal. See what happens with ordinary people. We may know about the self. We have the knowledge that our real identity is changeless, imperishable, and unaffected. It is ever free. All this we know. But we are not able to remain steady on our goal, steady on our pursuit. That is why whenever we see attractions in the outside world, the mind gets distracted. It forgets the goal. It finds other things more interesting. So, the holy people will be constantly telling us these things, elevating our minds, and also they help us to steadily go forward on our path, the spiritual path. And he says that you must develop various good qualities. Why good qualities? Whenever the mind has good qualities, the mind becomes calm. The mind becomes restful, non-agitated, no disturbance will be there. And at the same time, just think, when the mind shows such traits which are very disturbing, like anger, irritation, impatience, dislike, hatred, the mind is agitated. So, good qualities, good virtues have to be pursued. And what has to be removed? The ones which agitate us. See, Ashtavakra, King Janaka asked sage Ashtavakra that how will I get knowledge? Katham jnanam avapnoti? Katham muktir bhavishyati? How will I gain knowledge? How will I get liberation? Vairagyam cha katham praptam? And how will I get dispassion? Etat bruhi mama prabho. O Lord, King Janaka, who knew about the self, everything, but still he has gone to get established in the knowledge. He has gone to sage Ashtavakra and is asking him with lot of humility. He is asking him, O Lord, please tell me how will I get knowledge? How will I get mukti, liberation? How will I become free? Now I always feel that I am constricted. I have so many desires, so many thoughts going on in the mind. I am not restful at all in my mind. Constantly there are thoughts, ideas, attitudes, plans. These are haunting me. So please tell me, how will I be free from them so that I feel like the sky? No movement at all. Nothing affects. How will I become like that? He's asking. And he is also asking, please tell me, how will I get dispassion? What did I tell you just now? That the mind gets attracted to the world. Now, when the mind finds a lot of joy in the outside things, it forgets about the self. But foolish that we are, we try to get happiness from the objects of the world which are perishable, which does not stay, which appears and disappears, which will only give us suffering at the end. Initially there may be, for some time there will be happiness, But each and everything gives us unhappiness and sorrow at the end. So, how will we gain happiness? Only when the mind comes away from the worldly interests and starts getting interested to know what is the real identity, what is self, who is God, what is my relationship with God, these things, then slowly that is called dispassion. So what did Ashtavakra tell him? Tell the king. Ashtavakra told the king. He said that Muktimichyasi chet tata vishayan vishavatyaja kshama arjava daya tosha satyam piyushavad bhaja. He said that, oh my son, Muktimichyasi chet tata. Tata means son. Or, oh my son, if you want liberation, vishayan vishavatyaja, you simply throw away and renounce or reject the worldly attractions, the worldly objects which keep on making you interested in them. They are all perishable. They will not stay. Understand that. They are poisonous. And so, as when you see poison or somebody gives you poison, what will you do? Suppose you are taking a drink. You are very thirsty. You have taken the glass of a very cool sharbat maybe. Somebody has given. You are going to drink it. And you come to know that it is poison. What will you do? You'll simply throw. Is there a second thought? No second thought. Whatever is poisonous, we try to throw away. Even when in the body there is a defect, say a part of the body, hand or feet, becomes poisonous, that is gangrene occurs, which the poison in the blood may spread in the whole body, what do the doctors do? They amputate. They cut away that portion. Similarly, if some part of the body is cancerous, then surgery is done and the cancerous portion is cut away. So whenever we know that there is poison, we are throwing it away. So here what are the poison? This objective world. The objects of the world, he is saying that, my son, know that these are not going to give you permanent happiness. For some time it will give you. Maybe you want something, you have got it, you are very happy. But with that happiness there is anxiety. Will I lose it? How to preserve it? Will somebody take it away from me? If something happens to it, this anxiety will be giving you suffering. So with everything there is suffering and anxiety associated. So he says, my son, Vishayan, this object of the world, objects of the world, Vishavatyaja, as you will do to poison, you will throw away. Similarly, you throw these away. But then, if you throw them away, what will you do? Will you just sit empty-handed? What will you do? Then he says, Kshama, Arjava, Daya, Tosha, Satyam, Piyusha Vadbhaja. What is Piyusha? Piyusha means nectar, Amrita. One is, he says this, it is poison, throw. And these, he is saying, some qualities, he is saying, you worship these qualities as if you have got nectar. Suppose somebody says, this is nectar, drink it. You will be immortal or you will get very good health. You will immediately take it. So, Piyushavad Bhaja, worship these qualities. What are the qualities? Kshama, Arjava, Daya, Tosha, Satyam. Shama is what? Shama is forgiveness, excusing. Arjava is straightforwardness. Daya is compassion and mercy. Daya, Shama, Arjava, Daya, Tosha. Tosha is contentment, feeling absolutely satisfied. That is what we are not. All the human beings, every creature, we are not contented. That is why we are constantly wanting one after another. We'll want something. If we get it, again another desire comes. Even if that is fulfilled, a third one will come. We are never satisfied. So Shama, Arjava, Daya, Tosha, Satyam. Satyam, truth. Be truthful. Hold on to truth. Never leave truth. Never, for anything in your life, do not leave what is truth. So, Shama, Arjava, Daya, Tosha, Satyam, Piyushavad Bhaja. Right in the beginning, see, Ashtavakra is going to explain what is this self, what is this self-knowledge, how you are going to get it to King Janaka. But in the second shloka itself, what is he saying? He has not talked about self at all. He says, my dear son, the world is not going to make you happy. Leave them. Leave all that. Like poison. Instead, worship as if you have got nectar, these qualities. That is, pursue and cultivate these qualities. Because these qualities, if you cultivate, what will happen? The mind will become restful. And only when the mind is restful, the mind becomes pure, then the mind becomes light and transparent. And it can reflect the self which is already there. Our real identity is the self. But it gets obscured, it gets veiled by our desires, by our impurities, the traits which agitate us. So it cannot be seen. Just like suppose there is beautiful moon in the sky. We will be able to see it only when the clear sky is there. Suppose there is cloudy sky, then we will not be able to see it. Similarly, the mind should be absolutely clear, pure, movementless, no movement. Then only we will be able to understand and realize the self. So one has to become pure. Now, in all our scriptures, the highest truth will be told. And then how you have to go about so that you can reach that goal, that will be told. Now, I am taking this from Srimad Bhagavatam, and there Nimi and the Navayogis, they are talking. And Prabuddha is saying the same thing. Same qualities, many of them, what Ashtavakra told King Janaka, he is also telling whom? King Nimi. So you will find these are the universal qualities which every human being must cultivate, and more so by the seekers and the devotees. These should be cultivated. Ordinary people may not cultivate because they are not looking for self-realization or looking for God realization. But if we do so, if we consider ourselves at least to be a devotee, a seeker, then it is a must that we cultivate these qualities. So I did this shloka, Shaucham tapastitiksham cha maunam swadhyaya marjavam brahmacharya mahimsa cha samatvam dandva samyayoho. And I think I described all these points, but I think still, there is a lot of things to discuss. This Shaucham, and we discussed and we saw that the purity, Shaucham is purity. What is the purity? Purity can be outside and inside. Outside purity is the body, dress, surroundings, habits, etc. How you live. And internal purities is the mind, the thoughts, your attitudes, how you do, how you look upon everything. That is the internal purity. And what is the internal purity? The mind becomes pure inside. Where is the mind? Inside us. The mind will become pure when there is no desire. The impurities come because of our undesirable traits which agitate us. And why do the undesirable traits come? Because of our desires. We become angry whenever what we want is not fulfilled. And what do we want? It may be a simple thing. Somebody must behave like this and has not behaved like that. We become angry. Or any object that we want. So, all the undesirable traits, if we go into them using our intelligence by introspection, we'll find that the root cause is nothing but desire. So the desirelessness has to be there. So when the mind becomes desireless and has the only aim, what is the only aim? Knowing God or knowing the self. Then the mind becomes pure, absolutely restful. And so, how will it be? One has to increase in the love for God, and slowly the love for the world should become less and less. Everything, one's own attitude, one's thoughts, aims, everything should be directed in such a manner. Mark my words, my dear children. Mark these words. This is the sadhana that one seeker has to do. We may listen. We may read. We may feel that we know many slokas. But ultimately what? We have to practice. Unless we practice, whatever we are learning, we'll never be able to reach there. So, what is the main aim? To become pure. And to become pure, all our thoughts, all our attitudes, all our aims, it should be directed towards that aim of self-realization. And why are we not able to do it? Because we wrongly get identified with the body. And there is a differential outlook for every object. That is, I feel this body complex is the I. And everything different from me belongs to me or is different from me. So whatever is different from me, we want to acquire, we want to possess. Whereas the self is one, and myself and is only self, the universal self, everywhere is the same self. Not knowing this, or even knowing, not getting established in this knowledge, always we are having a Bheda Darshana. We feel difference from everything. And that causes the impurity in the mind. That causes the desires in the mind. The mind becomes agitated and disturbed. So purity means what? Purity means freedom from desire, freedom from expectations, freedom from ego, freedom from possessiveness. And what is the way towards this purity then? I think by now you will be able to give the reply. What is it? How do we progress towards this internal purity? The internal purity will come if we dwell upon the thought of the self. Understanding the self is everywhere, understanding that God is everywhere, and loving God, worshipping Him, finding Him everywhere through meditation, through introspection, through swadhyaya, and through realization. Seeing Him everywhere, we will be able to make our mind pure, make all the undesirable traits leave our mind. When we find everything to be the same, then whom will we dislike? From whom we will fear? Everything will become God and God alone. So this is only a theory. We are knowing it. We have to practice it. And to practice it every now and then, we have to give some thought quietly, or even in the midst of activity, think that God alone is. Everywhere He is. The self alone is. Everywhere it is the self. Basically, there is no difference, though there is difference in the name, form, behavior, attitude, everything is different. But basically, in essence, there is no difference. When we start dwelling upon these thoughts and find the same self everywhere, try to think about it, then slowly the mind becomes pure. As human beings, we are always active. So, activities should be offered to God. How will we know? How will we think? We can only say, we can repeat, God is everywhere, God is everywhere, God is everywhere. By that, do we go anywhere? Do we reach anywhere? It will be just a repetition of something which has been told to us. The Shastras are saying, the Guru is saying, so we are repeating. We have to realize it, experience it. How will we experience? The experience can be through our thoughts, our actions, our speech. Everything that we do, we should think that it is offered to God. Because God alone is. So, whatever activities we get to do, that is given by God. When we do it even, that is offered to God. And we should not allow any kind of likes, dislikes, that is raga and dvesha, any kind of clinging when we are in activity. That is, all kinds of desires. Desires will also get associated with likes and dislikes. We like certain things and we want to have them. And we desire that what we do not like should not come to us. Same thing, the desire. What is the desire? What I like, I should get. And desire is also what I do not like, I should not get. Both are desires. So, both of these, one is raga, that is what I like, I am attracted, I must get it. Another is dvesha, what I don't like, I should not get it. Both come under desire. Then, so this raga and dvesha, the likes and dislikes, both agitate the mind. And suppose you have got something which you like, what the mind tends to do then? Cling to it. What you have got and your wishes have been fulfilled, then you cling. You do not want to leave it. Knowing very well nothing will remain. See, the person has become quite elder, a middle-aged man. The toys that he or she played with, are they there? The books with which we went to school when we were in class 1, are they there? The pen that we used, are they there? But when we got them, we were so happy and we were clinging to them. If anybody wanted it, we will not want to give or share. So the thought, the knowledge that everything will disappear, nothing will remain. Whatever we are having now at this moment, presently, will not be there after some time. So this is the truth. This is the truth. We have to understand it and act accordingly. Accordingly means what? We should understand that we should not cling to anything. Don't cling. So raga, dvesha and clinging. So possessiveness, ego, clinging, all these things bring about impurity in the mind, in the form of agitation, in the form of fear, in the form of anxiety, in the form of disturbance. Leave them, leave them, leave them. The mind will become pure. Then, tapaha. What is tapaha? Austerity. What is the austerity? When will we call any act as austerity? Generally, austerity is adhering to certain discipline. The mind will not be wanting to be disciplined. Mind doesn't want to follow a routine. So give it a routine. That is austerity. And there will be devotional disciplines, devotional austerities, like people take to pilgrimage, they take to vows, they take to fasting on certain days, they take to even taking an austerity of getting up at a particular time in the day. And when I get up, I will take bath, I will read this or I will chant this. You can have that austerity. So austerity is adhering to certain discipline, which one is not used to doing every day, and which the mind doesn't want to do also. Those kind of discipline. Then tapaha, in fact, in reality, it is forbearing cheerfully and suffering any kinds of danger, hindrance regarding the sadhana, for any kind of hindrances, any kind of obstacles which come one's way, to be very, very cheerfully forbearing it, whatever incident, whatever situation has come. What will be a tapasya or austerity? That is, you take to some austerity, but some hindrances are coming. Forbear them. That is also another austerity. So, when we do this austerities, what happens is that we are able to restrain our body, mind, our senses, and intelligence. Restraint of the mind and restraint of the senses, absolutely necessary in spiritual path. Why? Right in the beginning, we saw that to be a good seeker, a true devotee, we have to be wholesome. So, in being wholesome, what we have to do? We cannot allow the mind to go here and there. We cannot allow the senses to do whatever they like. We want to follow a discipline, a path, so that the mind is not attracted to the worldly objects which are useless, but grow more and more love for this spiritual path, more and more love for God. So these disciplines are necessary. So restraint of body, mind and senses take place by tapasya, by taking to tapasya and austerity. For tapasya, one need not go to the forest. Remaining in the house, remaining wherever one is, one can do tapasya. By doing what? By following certain disciplines which you are not doing usually, or you find it difficult to do. Take to those austerities. You would find that lot of mental strength will be there. Suppose those who are not able to get up early in the morning, you take to a discipline that I'll get up at 5 or sometimes even 4. Take up that discipline. Try to do it. You will find that so much of strength is there in the mind within few days. Or thinking that I will eat moderately. I will not eat such food which is not good for me. So, moderation in food, moderation in whatever you are doing, everything you can bring about tapasya. Say, you can have a discipline that you get up in the morning, you have a routine, devotional or spiritual. Say, you take to this, many people do, reading one chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu Sahasranama, Bhagavatam. These are austerities actually. But one has to rise above the austerity also. What is that? Austerity alone, doing a disciplined, routinous manner doesn't mean anything. It is good, no doubt. It gives a lot of strength to the mind. But along with that, one must also apply the intelligence to see whether with all that discipline, your love for God is increasing or not. Maybe we will be doing lot of austerities. We'll go to pilgrimage, we'll have vows, we will fast, we'll get up in the morning, we'll do lot of chantings, we'll go to the temples every day. But see to it, apply your intelligence, introspect and see what is our aim. The aim I told right in the beginning. What is the aim? To grow more and more love for the self and God and come away from the worldly attractions. Is it happening? Then it is okay. If it doesn't happen, then I have to understand and think why it is not happening. What is wrong? So, these are a seeker may think that my sadhana will be very good if I have some solitude. If I could go to a solitary place or I have a room of my own, then my sadhana will be good. Or my surrounding should be congenial. But tapasya is such where whatever may be the situation, whatever may be the surrounding, you are able to grow more of love for God, more of your mind is focused on God and not on the world. If we keep on thinking that the surrounding is not all right and I did not get solitude, so such and such person brought in hindrances and obstacles, that is why I am not able to do sadhana, then it is not a sadhaka's attitude. What you should do? Whatever be your surroundings, if the aim is there blazing in your front, what the aim is, yearning to know the self, yearning to know God. Constantly the love should be more and more on God and not on other things. Then whatever is the surrounding one doesn't matter. That doesn't become a hindrance. Because who can stop your mind from thinking about God? Oneself brings in obstacles. What is the obstacle now? Here. Say here. What is happening? Mind, instead of thinking and dwelling on the thought of self, what is the mind thinking? The mind is thinking, oh, I did not get a congenial surrounding. So the mind is thinking of the surrounding. The mind is thinking, oh, I should have got a solitude. I should have got a solitary place to do my sadhana. I did not get. So mind is thinking more about those things and not on the self. Do you understand? My dear children, it needs a blessing. It needs kripa of the Lord to understand these subtle things. These are very, very subtle. Mostly we are deceiving ourselves in the name of doing disciplines and rituals and some pursuit. We will be deceiving ourselves if every moment we are not assessing ourselves by these austerities that I am taking to. Is my mind becoming more and more loving towards the path? More and more yearning is developing? Or is my mind as before, as it was earlier? And I am very satisfied thinking that I am doing a lot of austerity. So it is not just reading this shloka. I can read, or anybody can read and go forward. We read one chapter of Bhagavatam, one chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But you may read it. It is very good. It is a discipline. It is an austerity. But one has to think on every word. What is this shaucham? What is this purity of the mind? How will I get it? I will not get purity of the mind by just taking bath. How will this purity of mind come in? What am I to do? I am finding that even now my mind is gripped by so many undesirable traits. How will I remove them? This is the introspection. Whether it is a youngster or an old person, everybody has to do introspection and is required to do introspection. Vicharo hi mahaushadham. In Yoga Vasishta it says, Vicharo hi mahaushadham. One must do vichara, introspection. That is the medicine for all sufferings. One must think. Then tapaha. I may read this sloka and go forward. What is this tapaha? What does it mean? What are the austerities? We understand the austerities to be going to a solitary place and doing sadhana, or going to an ashram and doing sadhana, or every day getting up in the morning or fixed times for your sadhana, reading very routinely. Everybody says that, oh, he is very devotional, he is very religious, he is very spiritual. He will not take breakfast before chanting all these things. Very, very good. But by that, has the mind turned away from the world or not? Away from the world means it should not turn anywhere. It should turn to God. Has the love for God increased or not? Have the good qualities increased or not? What are the good qualities? Love, sympathy, sacrifice, helpfulness, compassion, mercy, all these things. Have I developed these more and more? Am I finding love for everybody compared to what I was? Does my mind feel like going and helping everybody? Has my mind got over laziness, lethargic tendencies, procrastination? All the undesirable traits, have they gone from me? And have all the desired traits have come into me and got strengthened? These have to be taught. So, tapaha is that. So, do sadhana in the right direction, my dear children. Sadhana has to be done in the right direction. Everything is sadhana. The whole life is a sadhana. If you take and think like this, if your attitude is like this, anything, when we get up in the morning, right from that time to the end, when we are sleeping, we are thinking, we are acting, interacting, we are talking, expressing ourselves, everything is sadhana. Some days we have situations which we like, some days we have situations we do not like. We meet people whom we love very much, we get food which we like very much, and some days it is not. Whatever is the situation, that is a sadhana. Take it as a sadhana. Take it as an austerity and introspect. These are opportunities coming to me for improving me and purifying me. This should be the attitude. So the sadhana should be done in the right direction. Observe the mind. Observe the mind. Always observe the mind and see how the mind is behaving. Is it able to get purity? Is it wanting purity? Are you ready to leave your undesirable traits like laziness, not helping others, not sacrificing for people, your greed for food, or many things? So many things are there. Your intolerance, impatience, anger. Are you able to leave them? So observe the mind. Observe the mind's tendencies, reactions, and resort to disciplines and austerities for the growth and purity of the mind. So this tapaha word, it can be left just by the meaning. Tapaha means austerity. And these are the austerities you can do. No. This tapaha word, it should, explode into various thoughts, which you can get by observing what are the thoughts. It should lead you to these kind of thoughts, that tapaha means doing sadhana in the right direction. You may not want to leave certain things and take to the right direction. What is, you may not want to leave your lethargy. That is, people will take to Diksha, but people will not do meditation. You are supposed to study the scriptures, you will not study. So you are not ready to take to the disciplines. So do sadhana in the right direction, observe the mind, its tendencies, its reactions, and resort to such disciplines and austerities for growth and enlightenment, refinement, and ultimately purity of the mind. Then is Shaucham Tapaha Titiksham Cha. Next is Titiksha. What is Titiksha? Titiksha is forbearance. Titiksha in Viveka Chudamani it says, Sahanam sarvadukhanam apratikara purvakam chinta vilaparahitam sa titiksha nigadyate. Sahanam sarvadukhanam. That is forbearing all kinds of sufferings. Apratikara purvakam, without any kind of blaming anybody, grumbling, feeling distressed. See, whenever we suffer, whatever is the suffering, bodily suffering, mental suffering, we will be lamenting. We will give the blame to somebody, say that because of that person this has happened, or because this was done, that is why it has happened. We will criticize other, we will keep on grumbling. No. Apratikara purvakam, chinta vilaparahitam. So, without any kind of anxiety, without any kind of lamentation, we should be able to forbear whatever situation we have been facing. Apratikara purvakam. And we should not also think that, oh, it should have been different. You know who is a sadhaka? Sadhaka must have titiksha. What is this titiksha? I just now told you. Sahanam sarvadukhanam apratikara purvakam chinta vilaparahitam sa titiksha nigadyate. So, it is a sadhaka must have titiksha, forbearing quality of forbearance. And apratikara purvakam, he should not feel that the situation should not have come to me. It should have been different. And constantly lament and become anxious. That is not a sadhaka's attitude. A sadhaka must have titiksha, where his mind will not be affected. He will forbear. Not only that, he is a sadhaka. He will be called a sadhaka if whichever situation he is facing, he will feel that this is an opportunity for me to remain unaffected in this situation. What is titiksha? Forbearing. Forbearing means what? Remain unaffected. Not even have this thought that it should not have come. Not become lamenting and feeling sorrowful. So, as real sadhaka, real devotee, whichever situation one is, if that is a very distressing situation even, because of titiksha, he will feel that, oh, this opportunity has come for me to test myself whether I am unaffected or not. I'll remain unaffected. It is a God-given situation. So, it is okay. But at the same time, whatever necessary to be done, it should be done. Suppose somebody in the house has fallen sick. It is a God-given situation and you sit tightly, that will not work. You must get up, take the person to the hospital or to the doctor. So, lamentation, anxiety, and a feeling of blame, grumbling, all this should not be there. So when one knows that my real identity is the self, the I, which is different from the body, different from the senses, then it becomes easy to remain unaffected. So again we come to that knowledge, whether it is purity. In purity also we have to dwell on this knowledge that I am the self, I am not the body, I am the changeless, imperishable, and all the purity will come when I get identified with my real identity and not with the body, etc. Here also it is the same. So for every quality that we discuss, you will find that all these qualities of Atma, ultimately we should be constantly dwelling on this fact that I am not the body, I am the self. I am not the body, I am the self. And God is everywhere. You can call God, you can say self. The God is inside me. The self is also inside. The God is everywhere. Everywhere it is God and God alone. These thoughts should be very, very fixed in the mind, not as a knowledge from outside, as something which has got drilled into the system. Like many of the knowledge, like when we grow up, suppose I am a daughter, I know. Nobody has to tell me that I am a daughter or I am a female. That knowledge. Similarly, this knowledge that there is nothing but God. Nothing but God. God is everywhere. This kind of a knowledge around which all our thoughts, all our speech, all our actions and interactions will be done. So, this unaffectedness is the titiksha. Titiksha means unaffectedness. Unaffectedness. So one must have this quality of titiksha. Maunam. Shaucham tapas titiksham cha maunam. Maunam. Now what is maunam? Maunam, everybody will feel that not talking, not speaking. That is maunam. This is mauna vrat. People will take to the vow of maunam. It's not going to talk. I've taken to maunam, so I'm not going to talk. And who is talking? Externally, the sound is not coming because I'm not opening the mouth. But internally, there is lot of talk going on. Where? In the head. So much talk is going on. In fact, those who take maunam, if they have not taken the maunam with the real aim of sublimating oneself, of purifying oneself, for them, there will be constant pressure of so many words. There will be lot of pressure to start speaking. So, maunam is generally thought of as not speaking, that is refraining from talking. But if we go into the essence, maunam is when the mind is not agitated. See again, titiksha we saw, what is it? Unaffectedness. Here, maunam, externally it is not speaking. But if you go deep into it, there should not be even the crisscross thoughts which go on into the mind. Thoughts will be there because the nature of mind is to produce thoughts. But thoughts will not agitate you. Thoughts will come, thoughts will go. Thoughts will come, thoughts will go. Just like suppose I sit by the roadside, through a window, I am seeing the road. Vehicles are going, people are walking, maybe a cow is going, a dog is running, a child is going with the mother. We will see. We will see the scenes coming and going, coming and going. Similarly, the thoughts will come and go, come and go. We will not get entangled with the thought. What happens to us? When one thought comes, we get entangled with the thought. I have some thought of one friend of childhood has come. Then so many thoughts, we will go on working on that. So we get entangled with the thought. That should not be there. So what is Maunam in a sense? To keep the mind restful, absolutely calm, absolutely quiet, absolutely tranquil. Whatever happens, let anything come, favorable and unfavorable conditions come, the mind will not be agitated. That is also Maunam. Generally, whatever the thoughts are, we get identified with the thought, entangled with the thought. But if the mind can remain steady and unaffected, even when they arise and dissolve, that is, the thoughts are arising and dissolving, but mind is steady and unaffected, that is Maunam. So, this is one kind of Maunam. How will this be? How will the mind not have thoughts of agitation? If again we make a habit and teach the mind to dwell upon the self, to dwell upon God, thought of God and His Leela, saintly people, their qualities of the Jivan Mukta, qualities of the Brahman, characteristics of the Brahman, such thoughts which make our mind quiet. We must make a habit of it. Then the mind will be attaining actual Maunam, not the imposed Maunam. Generally, we impose Maunam. Impose the discipline of not talking. That is imposed. And what will be spontaneous Maunam? When the mind is not agitated. How will it be if we keep on dwelling on the thought of good qualities, noble qualities, the thought of Brahman or the self or God? The mind will automatically become quiet, tranquil. These are habits, my dear children. These are habits. These are to be pursued. So, also, we should not talk unnecessarily. To have the external Maunam also. Suppose we have not taken to this austerity of Maunam. That is, we have not taken a vow of Maunam. What is the aim? Aim is to purify the mind. Aim is to make the mind restless. So for that, we should cultivate the habit of not talking unnecessarily. Not talking unnecessarily. Talk or say something when you are asked, not otherwise. If it is very important, not otherwise. Most of us, we have a habit of sharing our experience. Suppose few people are talking, somebody is talking about some incident. Your mind, you will be in feeling restless when you can also say a similar incident which you know or you have experienced. Not necessary. Where is the necessity? See, we have to stop this kind of habits and get into the habit of Maunam. Are you understanding? Is it not true? When few of us, we are talking, we human beings, we have a tendency to speak when somebody else is speaking. We can just listen. But when somebody is talking about something, we also want to show that we are also knowledgeable. We also know this, or we have also experienced this. And that is how we get into conversations which are absolutely sometimes not necessary. This, I think, I have told 100 times. If you look into yourselves, if you look into your lifestyles, you will find most of the talk that we do is not necessary. Not necessary at all. Unnecessarily we talk. Whereas we can spend that time in thinking of God. We are wasting our time in talking worldly things which has no meaning, which will not do any good. Suppose somebody has told, such and such thing happened. Immediately I will feel, I also know such and such thing happened. What is the necessity? So, these things should not be done. And another thing, absolutely essential, is not to blame others. You will find that if few people sit together and they are talking, if you tell them, you can sit together, but see to it that you are not talking of somebody else. You will find nobody will be having to say anything after some time. Because all the discussions mostly is about others. So Bhagavatam says what? Anyasya dosha guna chintanam ashu mutva seva katha rasamaho nitaram pibatvam. Anyasya dosha guna chintanam ashu mutva seva katha rasamaho nitaram pibatvam. So Bhagavatam says that don't talk about others, neither their defects nor their values or virtues. This whether it is their guna, that is their virtues, or whether there are shortcomings and defects, don't talk about anything. What is true is true. It's not necessary. Ashu muktva. Immediately get rid of this habit of constantly talking about others. And instead what you should do? Seva katha rasamaho nitaram pivatvam. Drink what? The stories of the devotees. The nectar which flows by listening and talking about the devotees. Drink that nectar. It says that. Now, Swadhyaya. So, Maunam Swadhyaya Marjavam. Shaucham Tapas Titiksham Cha. Maunam Swadhyaya Marjavam. Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya everybody knows. Swa Adhyayanam. That is studying oneself. Not only listening. Like you all are listening to talks. I want to ask you, yes, this is my question. Do you do Swadhyaya? Many of you, when you meet us, after the COVID, many of you are coming and we have also traveled. So we are meeting many of the devotees. And everybody is saying that these online talks have changed our lives, has transformed our lives, our attitudes, our knowledge. The enlightenment that we are getting, we have found a way and an aim in life. It is very true. I think the COVID has done that much good to mankind. But see what the Shastras are saying. Then I am reading this. I am not telling you just like that. I am reading from a Shastra. What it is saying? Swadhyaya. Are you doing it? I am afraid many of you are not doing. You are happy listening. Listening. As Swamiji says something, used to say that in the halls, in various big cities, there will be so many spiritual talks. And there are some listeners who will go to all spiritual talks. They love to listen. It's very good. But only listening is not enough. After listening, that is Shravana, Manana has to be done. Rumination, reflection, introspection, then contemplation. All this has to be done. So unless you study yourself, say if Bhagavad Gita is being taught, or say now Bhagavatam you are listening, Upanishads you are listening, you try to sit with a book. When you become a very sincere seeker, when you sit with a book, you must have your own book. Every one of you must have a Bhagavad Gita. If those who are listening, I don't know who all are listening, but I feel that I know all of you. I feel that. Though I'm not seeing you, I feel there are many people who are listening. And there are some who listen very regularly. I'm asking all of you with lot of fondness, have your own books, Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, maybe a Bhagavatam, and do Swadhyaya. Have a time fixed for it and read. And reading like what? Study it as if you are going to give an examination. When examination comes, all of us, we know, we are educated, we have the experience, then we try to give all our mind and learn the subject. So, as if you have to sit for an exam, or as if you have to explain it to somebody, even after sitting for an exam. I think the whole subject becomes clearer when one starts to teach it. So, suppose as if you have to teach it to somebody. So, study with that kind of an attitude. So, study with an aim to understand. Swamiji always says that he has always studied to understand and has understood to become. Not left at that, understood. And that's okay. There is one knowledge in my head. No. This spiritual knowledge is something where you have to become. See, all the other subjects, whether it is the art subjects, humanities like English, history, geography, economics, commerce, anything, and then science subjects, physics, chemistry, botany, zoology, maths, all these things. When we study, we may master the subject. But there is no question of becoming that. We are a master of the subject. But those subjects do not make our minds pure. Those subjects, even if we are a master of the subject, even if a person has got the Nobel Prize, cannot say the knowledge of the subject, the mastery of the subject has given him fearlessness, purity of the mind, unaffectedness of the mind. Because those subjects will not give it. It will give you only that knowledge by which you can go forward in your career. You can get some good job, better job, and more flourishing job, more money. Maybe you will be recognized by the whole world. All those things you will get. You may get. But there is no compulsion and there is no possibility to purify the mind, to get these fearlessness, unaffectedness, happiness, cheerfulness. No, eternally. But this subject, this Swadhyaya, is to understand and become. You have to become this. If you become this, nobody is pressurizing you, nobody is compelling you. Actually, that is why people do not become. But this is the scope to become. If you are yearning, if you are a serious seeker, a sincere student of spirituality, then you can become. Become what? Become that Atma. Realize that Atma. Realizing what? You can become unaffected. You can have that fearlessness. No anxiety. Always peace. Always cheerfulness. Always happiness. In the midst of big adversities, you will be floating and joyfully floating. My dear children, however much we know this, we constantly come across this knowledge, we are not pursuing it sincerely. Still, the mind goes towards various attractions of the world. Let it be. Let the world be. But remaining in the world, how you can still pursue, that is what our Shastras are saying. Live like a Jivan Mukta. Be liberated while in this life. Love everything in the world, but know that the Supreme is yourself. That love should be the Supreme. Your mind should only look forward. Yes, I have to do my household duties, my family duties, my duties in my profession, everything I have to do. But my liking is for the self. How I love this path. How a little time that I get, I dwell on this thought. That should be. So, Swadhyaya is study the scriptures oneself with an aim to understand and become. Study should be followed by rumination, contemplation. Also, along with that, not only the scriptures, not only we study the scriptures. Yes, I study the scriptures. Every day I read Bhagavad Gita. I have studied it. I am a master of it. You ask me any shloka from anywhere, I'll be able to say which is the chapter, which is the number. I'll be able to tell the word meanings very easily. I have studied it very well. I have mastered it. Not alone that. You have to become that. How will you become? Study also your mind. Study the mind, the mind's attitudes, and see whether those are according to whatever knowledge you are getting by studying the scripture. By studying the scripture, you are getting a knowledge. So along with that study and rumination and contemplation, one must also study one's mind and study the attitudes, the behavior, the thought processes, the desires which are hindering, and study it properly to understand whether the Swadhyaya is leading us to the goal or it is just a knowledge. We have to study ourselves to see whether we are actually going along with the knowledge and proceeding towards the goal or not. This is what is Swadhyaya. Then comes Arjavam. So Arjavam, then Brahmacharyam, Ahimsa, Samatvam, Dvandva Samyayoho, and rest of it I'll do in the next one. I would like to know from you. I've been asking some few. Going into these qualities in detail, does it help you? Are you finding it interesting? Not interesting. I don't want to use the word interesting. It may not be interesting. Useful. Is it useful to you? Are you going deep into them? Are you understanding that so much of thought can be given to these qualities and the way the qualities have to be cultivated, developed in a seeker, in a devotee? I wish some of you will let me know. So, as I said, I have always found that these are very, very important, along with the supreme truth. When we hear about that from the Upanishads, from the Bhagavad Gita, along with that, the knowledge which transcends us, it transports us to that state, which is the state of supreme felicity. We must know how to reach there. We should not be just having just a glimpse of it. We must know how to walk towards it. And unless this pursuit is done, and this pursuit will help us to become wholesomely wanting that goal. We will be remaining just studying and listening or reading. We will not be able to go forward. So anyway, today I tell you, at least some of you should let me know. Maybe you can write to the ashram email account and let me know whether you are having these, whether these qualities that I am discussing, is it having any usefulness? And if you are having a usefulness also, I would be very happy to know where you are using it, in which incident in the house or profession have you applied it, and how you have dealt with it. Okay. Sampurnam Jagadevanandanavanam Sarvepi Kalpadrumaha Gangam Vari Samastavari Nivaha Punya Samasta Kriyaha Vacha Prakrita Samskrita Shruti Shiro Varanasi Medini Sarvavasthitirasya Vastu Vishaya Drishte Parabrahmani Sarvavasthitirasya Vastu Vishaya Drishte Parabrahmani. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru.